Has been in the grip of long-running trends of security challenges that have affected no fewer than 32 out of the 36 states in the country. And through various operations, the military and other security agencies have stepped up efforts to keep Nigeria safer. Now, there are details for you in this intro package. Take a listen.
The Nigerian military has grappled with prolonged security challenges affecting at least 32 out of the country's 36 states. Over time, they have addressed internal security issues like communal conflicts, cross-border crimes, and separatist insurgencies. The Boko Haram insurgency starting in the early 2000s remains a significant ongoing military concern. Notably, the Nigerian Civil War between 1967 and 1970 between the Nigerian government led by General Yakubu Gowon and the breakaway state of Biafra was a pivotal engagement in Nigeria's military history. Recent years have seen heightened security issues in the northwest and north-central regions, including banditry, kidnappings, and conflicts between herders and farmers. Operations like Sahel Sanity were initiated to combat these challenges and bolster overall security. Counterinsurgency efforts aim to tackle not only Boko Haram, but also affiliated extremist groups, striving to restore stability in affected areas. Various security challenges such as terrorism, insurgency, banditry, kidnappings, farmer-herder conflicts, ethnic tensions, and economic sabotage have evolved in different forms. Despite emerging operational hurdles, the security forces have recorded relative successes nationwide. Nigeria's history has been marked by periods of military rule and civilian governance, with the military frequently called upon to address diverse security issues. Through various operations, the military and other security agencies have stepped up efforts to make Nigeria safer for all. The specific timeline and nature of military operations have evolved in response to changing circumstances and threats.
And of course, to further shed more light on this, I am joined on the program today by Timothy Iwuagwu, National Spokesperson, Institute for Safety Professionals of Nigeria. And also joining in the course of the program will be Salahuddin Hashim, Conflict and Security Analyst. I'd like to say thank you for joining in, Timothy.
And compliments of the season here.
All right.
Yes.
Compliments of the season to you too.
Yes, just on the 31st of October this year, I won the election and have become the national president of the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria.
Oh, wow. Congratulations on your recent, of course, office. Once again, we celebrate with you. Congratulations. Great. Now, let's get to, of course, consider the government's efforts on security for the year. How would you rate the performance so far?
You see, in military operations, the objective of the operation is always the yardstick for measuring performance. If we look at the Nigerian Armed Forces, the work they've done so far, and if we want to look back to 2012, 2011, 2015 to 2023, 8 years of a very terrible experience with terrorism. The country and its citizens went through terrible moments. It's difficult for some of us who are close to the military to say they performed badly or so well. Whatever tool you have in your hands does not determine the work you can do. But your determination to use the tool to do that work is what determines the work. So if we look at Nigeria, what the government was not giving the military the go-ahead. Otherwise, I think the result that we have now, which we'll say is a good one, better than what had been in some years past, would have been here earlier than now. I think the military was not allowed to do their work. It is sad.
You said you think the military, that's the Nigerian military, was not or is not allowed to do its work?
I think recently they've been given a more free hand because they were being controlled in a manner that portrayed them as ineffective.
Okay, would you like to expatiate on that?
Yeah, because the military going for an operation where they are waiting for command, because the military thrives on command and control structures. So if the military boys in the field, in combat, they also take instructions. Your commander can also be a threat to success. And the commander is not the final command. The command is also coming from the headquarters. Command is also coming from the commander-in-chief, who doubles as the president. And so a whole lot of things happen in this command and control arrangement. So when you look at the performance of the military, and before you can rate them and assess them, you must also think of what they have found themselves in over time. So sometimes they were not allowed to perform. I remember being part of an operation where you complain about something, they say, do not shoot when nobody has shot at you. And you start asking, is it that we should wait when they shoot at me and I die and resurrect and shoot back? And so these are some of the questions. So the military boys have found themselves in very precarious circumstances that never allowed them to show the stuff they are really made of. But I think in recent time, they've been allowed, the military commanders have used their voice without much noise. And one thing again is the press, the media, interviewing military officers, even asking them, what is your next line of action? Are you telling him to, are you expecting him to tell the world, to tell everybody? Because all the people are listening.
But I mean, I'm sorry, I might just need to comment on the aspect of the press there. I mean, there's also the right for people to know when it comes to their security and welfare. So, I mean, yes. Would you also want to say that the press, should be faulted in doing its job?
Yes, in as much as the press cannot be faulted, we must be able to strike a balance, an acceptable and reasonable balance between the right of the people to get the information and the right of the military to disseminate or tell the press what the press wants to hear. Because information in security environment is disseminated on need-to-know basis. And sometimes we use democratic principles and say, okay, the people want to know. Yes, the army belongs to the people, and the people want to know how their army is faring. But the need to know must be the guiding principle, must be hinged on the need to know. The press, yes, they want to know what is going on and communicate with the wider public. But we should also know that inside that public are also some of the enemies of the system, of the country. So the information you release must be vetted. And I've heard a lot of interviews where they ask a military person to tell how he went to war, what is the next action, what will they be doing tomorrow. It's ridiculous sometimes.
Okay. I mean, that point is pretty much, established. But I would also want to ask, in terms of the resources at the disposal of the military, I'm talking about the security forces, the agencies, the monies voted through allocations and of course, the budget and all of that, vis-a-vis the result in terms of safety, security, and also the preservation of lives and property. Particularly for the year, do you think it's been justified to some extent?
Yeah, a lot of resources have been pumped into the kinetic aspects of the counterinsurgency operations. It is always funny when a diver stays so long underwater and you are expecting the diver to come out soon. And just because the diver is paid $100 per hour or $300, $500 per hour, and you want the diver to quickly finish whatever he was doing underwater and come out so that you pay less. And the diver stays so long and comes out, and you say, why did you stay all this long? And the diver say, well, I had an encounter with some marmots underwater. And then you may not have enough ground to argue with him because you are not capable of going down the water to confirm how truthful he has been in his report. But I tell you, a lot of money has been put. Nigerians have queried some of the expenses incurred. It's about our national budget. Planning and execution of military operations is capital intensive. We know it. It is also important to find out from the soldiers in the field. Some of them have complained of not getting their allowances. Some of them have complained about the state of their weapons. And at the same time, the government was telling us a whole lot of weapons have been brought in. We know we are in this country and we followed it up. But a lot changed in the last 2 years. A lot changed. A lot changed.
All
and
right.
We have seen the result. And the result is that even the Borno State governor was even happy to say that the state of his state is very fine.
Than what it used to be. We'll get to the aspect of the Borno State governor, but let's get into a bit of specifics right now. Now, the challenges of terrorism, insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, farmers' herders crisis, ethnic agitation, and also economic sabotage have continued to evolve in different natures and forms across the country. Now, how do you react to all of these vices and how they have been tackled?
They have been tackled. You see, there is no hard and fast rule in any military operation. The strategy adopted at a particular operation always comes from some assessment, risk assessment, security analysis, and then you now determine the approach. And so some people were a bit diplomatic in their recommendation for the approach. They recommended diplomatic approach. They talked about dialogue, and others said kinetic action should be amplified. Yes, but I think they have done well in the stick and carrot approach. The stick and carrot approach, because Sometimes you need very hard knock, and another time you also try to tell them you shouldn't. Just like in gunboat diplomacy, you show them the capacity and tell them, look, our aim is not actually to destroy you, but we must not allow you to destroy the country. So there's been a good blend, the kinetic and diplomatic approach.
Okay. Okay. I was just, I mean, before we get into the kinetic and, of course, non-kinetic approach, one other issue again that that popped up during the course of the year and even recently is the welfare of many of these security officers. I think recently there was a report where one of the army chiefs actually did say that an average soldier or so earns 50,000 naira or less, right? And then you look at the current realities in terms of cost of living, allowances, that person having responsibilities that they need to meet up to and all of that, vis-a-vis how much they earn and the cost of their job, which involves them laying their lives. Now, in terms of welfare, would you say that the government has done substantially enough or substantially well for uniformed men, in the course of the year?
I think the issue of welfare has been something that has lingered over the years. It's a regimented system. You are meant to stomach and endure all odds. And then for soldiers to start speaking out publicly, and then you know it has gotten to the climax. So it is really a fact that allowances, welfare, remunerations have been very low, unacceptably low. A whole lot of things have happened. Some of them have not been made public.
But why do you think that is? Over the years, why do you think that is? I mean, these people do so much, yet, many of them are paid so little.
Yes. We need to have a political class because we are in a political democracy, a democratic system where the people must speak. I bet you, without public outcry, the government virtually does nothing. Across the world, it's not about Nigeria. Without public outcry, people will just suffer. A bad road can remain like that for 300 years without public outcry. And except it suits the purpose of the policymakers, they hardly address some of these issues. The Nigerian people, I blame the Nigerian people, the citizens, whose fathers, brothers, sons, daughters are in uniform and whose lives are put on the line for the comfort of a society operated by a system that does not want to express the realities that these people who are dying for our sake are the reasons why we are enjoying. Because when you are having some fine, good time somewhere, relaxing at an amusement park, some other guys are there facing live bullets just to make sure that criminality and terrorism did not take over the land. So for them not to be paid is an aberration. I hate to discuss it because I also, like I said here, the Nigerian citizens are not talking much about the welfare of their military. And it is so bad. We've not heard people come to say, okay, we want to strike. We want to go on strike because our soldiers are neglected.
Well, could that be, you said the people are not talking about the welfare of many of the men in uniform. Could that be as a result of the men in uniform themselves not being vocal enough about the state of their welfare? You know, sometimes when they speak, that could spur people to want to take it up. But oftentimes, maybe because the system is, you know, a command hierarchy, where, of course, there's also the aspect of secrecy on the job, they remain silent. Hence, people might not even be aware this is happening. So, I mean, could that also be a factor?
Yes, it's a factor. We saw a young soldier who spoke out his mind. It was a terrible thing. It was all over the social media. And the next day we heard he has been in detention. Where he is today, we cannot tell. But then, those are things that we cannot conceal for too long. Welfare of servicemen has been so poor. Right now, as I speak, even the retired people, servicemen, were promised some palliative. That was the language, palliative. It's a generic word. It could mean anything at any point. But they never got anything. And every day, one new thing is said. So there is need for us to have, at the National Assembly, retired military officers who would speak out boldly. We have a lot of military officers who may not want to say anything. They feel bad, but they can't say anything. When the commander-in-chief should also know the nature of that regimented system. And for him to get the best of the men must be well taken care of. You cannot go to battle with a blunt implement, and you cannot go to farm with a blunt implement and expect to achieve much. So people cannot be working day and night, stay under the sun. Some of them are inside boats, patrolling the waters, because while the Air Force is protecting the country from the air, the Army is taking care of the territorial integrity of the country, while the Navy is giving a seaward protection. Now, all these people are working in collaboration to produce what we call national security.
Okay, I'm sorry, I might just need to cut in here. You said that it's also important, maybe to address this issue, you have a serviceman or ex-servicemen being part of the decision-making hierarchy, maybe in the Senate, in the House, you know, or, you know, chambers of command. The former president of Nigeria was a general. That's Muhammadu Buhari. Was a uniform man. Yes. And also we understand that a one-time Senate president, that's David Mark, was...
David Mark.
Yes, was also, you know, a uniform. So, I mean, looking at... Let's look at the welfare system under them. Was it that they were not privy to some of the challenges of their fellow comrades, you know, compared to what many of them are going through at the moment?
Yes. Well, we mentioned their names. At least two had been mentioned. Muhammad Buhari and General David Mark. You see, it is always the excuse used by the civilians, let me use that word, civilians, when they say, after all, your general was there. He couldn't do much for you. A lot was promised by General Buhari, but he achieved more than any former leader, whether military or civilian, of Nigeria, when it comes to retirement benefits of ex-service personnel. He did a lot, improved it, from where he met it. But sometimes when they say a lot of things, because when the general becomes the politician and he learns the art of saying what he doesn't mean and meaning what he never said. So you have that type of problem. And some persons also appearing to be the ones the president will trust to handle certain issues, and those ones will never come in contact with the soldiers. They will go and meet the top and high ranking who have never, sometimes, never discussed with the men about their welfare. It's all about hierarchy. And so this is a problem. And you can see in Nigeria, our joy today is that we have been able to sustain democracy, even with all the complaints. We are so happy. We don't want military intervention or encroachment into democratic governance.
Process. Okay, I just want to come in here. You talked earlier about kinetic and non-kinetic approach. I'd like to know, in terms of the deployment in the course of the year, its effectiveness, particularly in tackling challenges, and also the issue of particularly amnesty and deradicalization programs for surrendered and repentant terrorists who, of course, laid down their arms at various theaters of operation. Now, for me, my question to you is, how has this approach been productive so far? Would you say it's yielded results, or it's still a work in progress? And also your opinion as regards repentant terrorists.
Yes, let me start from the last. Repentant terrorists. It is difficult for a man whose mind had been twisted to regain his mind again. What we see in Nigeria today, when it comes to deradicalization, demobilization, and rehabilitation, some of these things are just used by politicians to embellish a bad situation and make it a bit nice, so people start being politically nice, start speaking well of something that they cannot expatiate. Where are these people? Where are these repentant terrorists? Where are they? Where have they been rehabilitated? I know that some years back, 2008, 2009, we had issues of the Niger Delta militants, repentant militants. They were called, they were given some trade, given some training, and so on. And it's so bad too in Nigeria. We tend to support certain things that are best tagged evil, just because we are looking at the dividends. How can the dividend from evil be something people should want to have? Some people will tell you, since you rehabilitated the Niger Delta militant, rehabilitate the Boko Haram terrorist, rehabilitate the ISWAP man. Why? The people, there's difference between agitators who are agitating because their environment has been polluted and messed up, who would want to have a better life, whose traditional occupation, like fishing, has been destroyed through pollution and degradation of the marine ecosystem and the aquatic environment. So, and then somebody who, out of a religious cleavage, decided to wage a war, even against his own people, because they don't share the same belief. So that is a different thing.
All right.
So who are these people? Who is radicalizing?
Okay.
Who is de-radicalizing? Where are they? Where is the camp? Some people were left inside IDP camps for so many years that we were crying out. Which one is cheaper?
I mean,
to
talking
keep
about
feeding them?
IDPs, that of course will be the next course of our conversation, but we need to go on a quick break. When we return, of course, we will continue from where we have stopped. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining the program, this is Secure the Continent, and we have been looking at military operations in Nigeria, the progress and hurdles in the fight against the insecurity. We still have on the show Timothy Iwuagwu, National Spokesperson, who is now President, Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, joining in on the program. Thank you so much for your time, Timothy.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
All right. We, of course, to pick up from where we stopped, we were discussing the state of, the issue of repentant terrorists and all of that. And then we talked about the IDPs. Now, we know that in Borno State, for instance, the governor has said that tremendous progress has been recorded when it comes to getting people back, to their normal lives. But we still have IDPs in many parts of the country. Now, what's your take on this? Number one, the state of many of these IDPs, and also efforts to ensure that these people return back to their normal lives.
Yes, we hear people talking with some level of excitement to say the people have been returned to their ancestral communities. For how long were they allowed to stay in IDP camp? We heard of a whole lot of things, from sanitary conditions to a normal feeding. Sometimes we hear of a real safety hazard like fire, apart from the health hazard of infections and all that. We are
okay,
a country.
I'm sorry, Timothy, we'll pick up from there. I understand that we need to go on a quick break. We will, of course, continue with, of course, our conversation shortly. Of course, this is still Secure the Continent, and we have on the program Timothy Iwuagwu, who is talking or sort of giving an analysis of the security operations in Nigeria, in the year 2023. And before we went on that break, Timothy, you are trying to give us some sort of description as regards the IDP situation across Nigeria. Would you like to pick up from there?
Yes. The IDP camps presented a lot of health hazards and safety hazards. When we talk of hazard, a hazard is anything that has the capacity to produce harm, and then either by itself or in collaboration with other factors. Then when we talk of safety hazards, we're talking of the hazard that can produce pain and injury, or what we call trauma. So when we talk of health hazard, looking at those hazards that can cause illness. So a whole lot of things happen at the IDP camp. The people are so clustered, and then they have food and everything coming. They had no say. They had nothing they get that is based on their wish or choice. They only get these things handed over to them, maybe through.
But would you say that the government in the course of 2023 has been able to successfully return people back to their, in your words, ancestral homes compared to the previous years in many of these
Yes.
camps.
Yeah, in many of the states, almost the 36 states have one type of security problem or the other. And so the government has done a lot in returning people to their ancestral homes. I think the non-kinetic approach, the dialogue and the rehabilitation, the radicalization must have played some tangible roles or brought some tangible results because even the repentant terrorists also needed to go home. And it was a very serious problem to allow their people, reabsorb them. There was this problem of how can these people be forgiven after what they unleashed on their people. They killed a lot of people, even members of families, they killed by their own family member. So people, a whole lot of things happened. So we had a lot of NGOs operating in those areas. A lot needed to be known about the way, the modus of achieving the rehabilitation.
Okay.
And a whole lot of things. But we didn't hear that. We didn't hear enough of that. We only know that a lot of NGOs were registered and they were doing a whole lot of things. But nothing has been said whether homes that were destroyed, were destroyed. Some families have been wiped away. And those things are not emphasized as it should be. Okay. And when you say they've returned to the ancestral homes, yes, some people have been returned to your tent to Israel, manage yourselves. And then, of course, they are happy to be home and manage themselves. But what is the provision? What's the palliative? I want to use that word, palliative. What has been given to them to enable them sustain their rehabilitation? You understand? So they don't need to just say they've been returned. We saw what happened when passengers in a train were kidnapped. They were not, it was about money. So these insurgents and all what is happening, the military and the security agencies should not even say it's all over.
Of
so
course,
it's not all over.
I mean, with reports that, of course, we get on a daily basis, we understand that it's an ongoing process. But I would like us to slightly move away from there. Let's look at the flip side. Now, many of these successes, of course, didn't happen without some sort of setbacks. Part of these setbacks include the killing of soldiers in ambush, sabotage, loss of equipment, and also operational errors that have resulted in the killing of innocent citizens, like one we witnessed, or Nigerians actually did witness recently. Now, could some of these very unfortunate happenings, could they have been avoided?
Yes, it's all about command and control. Some very mild words are often used in the military environment to describe very terrible situations. You can just say somebody died of friendly fire, friendly bullet. So you start asking how friendly can a bullet be when it hits somebody. So, but if a particular operation is ongoing and there is a little mix-up in communication, that can lead to very serious operational error. If you are asked to advance and capture or just enter a particular zone with the coordinates clearly spelled out, and the forecast is that you will have a lot of resistance, So you are told to use 2 days to do this work. And when you approach that place, you find out that the resistance was not as much as envisaged. And you're able to complete that operation earlier than thought or planned. And you decide to advance beyond that point. You may end up having a problem, because those who advance beyond the point may now see themselves being fired upon by their own truth, because the command and control structure is that information is given to different sectors differently. And the planners of the operation must have considered certain things. So if you find yourself where your own aircraft will bomb you, or your own armored tanks will shell your position because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or in the right place at the wrong time, anything could happen. But there are a lot of opinions out there, especially what happened in Kaduna. It has called for a whole lot of things to be in the public domain. Information, insinuation of all types. But the question is, what is the final statement from the military hierarchy? What is their final position? But we can say today that they are still investigating. They are still investigating.
Okay.
Because what happened in Kaduna, that bombing was so unfortunate, and it's not expected at this time, because it is not something we expect.
Okay.
That our own people will be killed by our own military.
All right. I'm sorry, Timothy, but I might just need to cut in here. I understand that we are pressed for time. Thank you so much for your contribution on the program today.
My pleasure.